Is Netflix One Piece about to do the impossible? Will it revolutionize live-action anime adaptations forever? And what exactly makes live-action One Piece different from the slippery shards of yesteryear? We will address exactly why some people are skeptical of the show, because good golly, Miss Molly, there are many reasons to be skeptical. But first, many fans in Japan and around the world think that One Piece could be the one piece of fiction to change everything, and here's what they have to say. Even from the trailer alone, the way they've adapted One Piece into a live-action series to such a high level of perfection is truly amazing. Bruh, that Zoro is so much cooler than I expected. The casting feels completely natural, and you can feel the love for the original work in the quality of every scene. Definitely gonna break the Netflix live-action curse. I'm so excited. Okay, but why does Shanks look like he's homeless? As expected, it is impossible to recreate Nami. Sorry, but I don't trust live actions. I'm not into it. I am not into adapting anime into live action. No hating, please. Alright, so not everyone is sold on the show just yet, but I have observed an overwhelmingly positive response from Japanese fans, and much more optimism in the English-speaking community than I expected. Basically, the dream that NetPiece will be the first top-tier live-action anime adaptation is built on three main arguments from fans, as well as one other big, overlooked advantage. Firstly, the characters are, for the most part, right on the money. We discussed Japan's reactions to the characters in detail the other day, but the general consensus is that the casting and costume design have far exceeded expectations, and a few fans described it like this. It's impressive how they've struck such a fine balance between being faithful to the source material and feeling natural. For live-action adaptations, it's good to shoot for this kind of balance instead of obsessing over perfect replication. It makes me think this is probably how it would be if they were real. Basically, the creators have struck a balance between fantasy and reality that captures the essence of each character but leaves out details that would be distracting in the live-action setting, such as Usopp's Pinocchio nose or Sanji's swirly eyebrows, and fans are loving it. Secondly, the respect for the source material is obvious. The show is rejigging certain segments for the live-action format, but it's also recreating key scenes from the manga faithfully. It is chock full of Easter eggs and references, and as one Japanese fan put it, to include Foxy, Bellamy, and Cavendish on the Wanted posters, we have to appreciate their dedication to the original work. Of course, it's wise to approach the trailer with cautious optimism, but it's a good sign when the source material is being treated with such dignity, and everyone on board seems thrilled to be part of the project. Thirdly, the legend himself, Eiichiro Oda, is heavily involved with the adaptation. When the authors of comics or novels have a movie or TV studio adapt their work, the extent of the role that authors play in the adaptation can vary depending on the specific circumstances, negotiations, the author's level of influence, and in many cases, the author functions as a creative consultant but has limited control over the production, often to the detriment of the final product, like when Goro Miyazaki took a hot shat on Earthsea. But this is not the case with Mr. Oda, who even had Netflix promise that they would not launch the show until he was satisfied with it. Apparently, he also provided notes and storyboards on a regular basis, and was consulted anytime the script deviated from the original work. Oda's level of control over the show's production gives One Piece an edge over other Netflix anime-to-people productions, and he's even forced the studio to redo segments that were not up to scratch. As Oda himself said in a letter released alongside the show's San Diego Comic-Con 2023 panel, even after the shoot was over, there were numerous scenes the production agreed to reshoot because I felt they were not good enough to put out into the world. At the same time, he noted that the producers and the crew are big fans of One Piece, that there were lines and ideas that he didn't think would work but actually delighted him once the cast brought them to life. And it is clearly a collaborative passion project built on a healthy relationship between Mr. Oda and the team. All in all, these three factors identified by fans point to NetPiece having a solid chance at success. But one other advantage that One Piece has over many other manga and anime getting live-action adaptations is simply how ridiculous One Piece is in the best of ways. Obviously, One Piece is packed with emotionally charged arcs. You never know when tragedy will strike or the manga will get you all fired up, and the plot darkens over time. But at the story's core, there has always been this completely over-the-top, zany feel that makes up a big part of One Piece's appeal. And I think that the built-in goofy factor gives NetPiece more leeway than comparatively straight-faced adaptations that take themselves too seriously and end up cringing out on us. For example, if the CG or wire work is a bit corny, or the dialogue hits the cheese here and there, I don't think it will detract from the experience in the same way it might detract from other live-action adaptations, because fans already expect a certain degree of campy vibes and exaggerated quirks in the world of One Piece. In other words, One Piece doesn't take itself too seriously, and that could very much be to NetPiece's benefit. Of course, there are still plenty of valid reasons to be skeptical, and those reasons include the likes of Ghost in the Shell, Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note, Gantz, Attack on Titan, The Last Last Airbender, Fist of the North Star, etc, etc, etc. There is enough live-action anime toilet paper out there to wipe from Tokyo to Timbuktu, and every one of these failures is a reason to be skeptical of how effectively TV and movie studios can turn cherished anime into live-action adaptations. Of course, two of the most widely known debacles of recent times are Dragon Ball Evolution and Cowboy Bebop. In the case of Dragon Ball Evolution, instead of trying to make a movie to delight Dragon Ball fans, the film's creators prioritized their own cringy high school fanfiction, tossed the manga's key lore and story beats into a dumpster and lit it on fire, and made an absolute mess of the world's characters. Let alone the fact that many key personalities were axed altogether, the characters who did make it in were brought to life with less charisma than canned ham, and the costume designs were simply embarrassing. From knockoff Baby Spice to the man who had a bad day at Supercuts, to the bum they dragged out of the local brothel, to whatever in the blue hell that is, it's little wonder that so many fans walked out of the cinema mid-film back in 2009. Dragon Ball Evolution messed its pants so terrifically that it made 2004's Devilman look like a Christopher Nolan production, and memories of just how badly it betrayed Dragon Ball fans would linger on like a stinky fart for decades, filling the nostrils of the world with dread every time a new live-action anime adaptation was announced. The years flew by and the crappy live-action anime adaptations only continued to stack up, and even as details about a live-action One Piece began to trickle out, Netflix themselves cracked out stinkers like Spider-Man 3, Death Note, and of course Cowboy Bebop that tarnished everything fans loved about the original works. As a standalone piece, Cowboy Bebop was not nearly as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution, but it did succeed at revolting a significant portion of the anime's fanbase. From the obnoxious writing to the cheap look to the cringe to the messy reinterpretation of Cowboy Bebop's core themes to the unnecessary changes that hollowed out once appealing characters, NetBop went terribly wrong. And it's easy to see why many One Piece fans became increasingly skeptical of NetPiece's chances at success, especially considering that NetBop was cobbled together by the same studio that is now producing One Piece, that is, Tomorrow Studios. However, there is no better teacher than failure, and it really does look like NetPiece is sailing in a different direction, with strong casting and a costume design that balances fantasy with reality, nothing but reverence for the source material from what we've seen thus far, creator Eiichiro Oda exhibiting a surprisingly large degree of control over the production process, and the inherently goofy vibes of the One Piece universe playing in the adaptation's favor. Even so, can live-action One Piece truly do the impossible? Can it revolutionize the shoddy state of live-action anime adaptations by delivering a show that isn't trash or mid or just somewhat decent, but instead absolutely sensational? I hope so, because if any live-action anime adaptation has a chance at shaking up the space, this is probably it. And if it is a smashing success, then Netflix and other networks, as well as the studios making these adaptations, will want to replicate that formula of passion, respect, and creator involvement. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but how about you?